Good morning, students. Welcome back to English 1 class. Like I told you, in most of our recorded classes, we'll be doing English 1 because it's easy to understand, right? English 2, we're doing interactive classes so that you can clear your doubts there and then. So we have started with Jody's. This is Jody's farm. We have finished part 1 and in part 2. In part 1, we saw about how Penny got bitten by a rattlesnake and how they killed, they as in he and his son, Jody killed a doe and took out its liver and heart to suck out the poison from Penny's wound, the snake bite wound. And he survived. Penny survived, and then they go home, and the next day how Jody convinces his father to allow him to go back into the forest and look for the fawn, the baby deer, which was left alone. It was still a suckling fawn, still drinking its mother's milk, so it would starve to death. So he managed to convince his father and his mother, and so that day he went with Melville. Melville offered to take him back to the forest, and he said that he would help him look for the fawn. So they go there to the forest. In part 2, we have done about how Jody's thoughts are going towards the fawn and how he's thinking how the meeting will be, and suddenly he thought that he does not want to share that moment with anyone, be it even Melville. So in case that he found the fawn dead, he did not want Melville to see the disappointment on his face, and if fortunately he found the fawn alive, he did not want to share that happiness with anyone at that moment. So suddenly he did not want Melville to be there. So at just before entering the clearing or entering the area where they had last seen the fawn, he told Melville, this place is full of scrubs, this place is full of plants, so maybe your horse will not be able to go there, so you can drop me off here. And Melville was quite worried. He said, no, what if we get lost again? I cannot leave you alone. Then Jody said, don't worry, I'll manage. And so Melville also was convinced by Jody, and so Melville went away from there. So he went looking for the fawn. He could not find it at first anywhere. So he went to the place. Suddenly he saw buzzards. You know, buzzards or these carrion birds which eat dead flesh. So he saw many of them there, and he went to that area and he saw the doe's body, the dead body, the carcass, the dead body of the doe which they had killed the previous day. They were eating that dead body of the doe. And then he began to look for footprints. He couldn't find any footprints. He found footprints only of the cats and the cats as in the maybe a tiger, maybe a lion roaming about there. So he found the footprints of that and the footprints of the buzzards flying about there. The other footprints of the doe and the fawn had been washed away. The previous night there was rainfall, and there was rain, and all the footprints had been washed away. So he could not trace the tracks of he could not look for the footprints of the fawn. So he could not find the fawn. So today what we'll be doing, I hope you finished your homework of this. So today we'll be doing part 3 of this lesson. Some part of part 3, not the whole lesson, it will become too much. So some part of part 3. Okay, so please continue watching the video. If you have any doubts, you can let me know. Okay, so continue watching the video. So now let's continue. Part 3. Movement directly in front of him startled him so that he tumbled backward. Remember what he was doing? The last thing he was doing in part 2, he was looking for footprints. And all that he saw was the footprint of the cats and the buzzards. So as he was looking for him, suddenly something moved in front of him. He didn't see what, but he could feel some movement in front of him. And this startled him. Startled him means he became shocked suddenly. So that he tumbled backward. Tumbled means he fell backwards. The fawn lifted its face to his, and here he saw the fawn. The fawn was looking at him. It turned its head with a wide, wondering motion and shook him through with the stare of its liquid eyes. Liquid eyes means the eyes were very, very watery. If you see any videos of fawns and deer, you will find their eyes are very, very watery. It seems like that they are crying. So this face he saw from in between the or among the bushes. It was quivering. Quivering means shaking. So whatever meanings I am giving you, please write them down. So quivering meaning is given in the book, so that is fine. So it was quivering, shivering, like when you shiver when you feel cold. It made no effort to rise or run. So it saw Jody there, but then usually animals, when they see human beings, they begin to run, they get scared and they run. But this fawn surprisingly did not make any effort to move or to run from there. It just stood there looking at Jody. Jody could not trust himself to move. Jody was afraid to move. He thought that if he moved, the fawn would run away. And he whispered, "It's me," he said to the fawn, "it's me." It's me means don't worry, I am here to take care of you. That's what these two words mean. The fawn lifted its nose, scenting him. Scenting him means trying to smell him. He reached out one hand and laid it on the soft neck. Jody put out one hand and put his hand on the soft neck of the fawn. The touch made him delirious. Here, extremely excited. It made Jody very, very excited because his hand was on the fawn's neck and the fawn was making no effort to run away from there. This made him very, very excited. This made Jody very excited. He moved forward on all fours until he was close behind it. He moved forward on all fours means he was not walking. He was kneeling. Remember, he was looking for the footprints and he couldn't possibly stand and look for the footprints. So he was kneeling down and his hands were also on the ground. And in the same way, he moved forward towards the fawn. He put his hands around its body. First he put only his hand on the neck of the fawn, but now he put both his hands around the body of the fawn. A light convulsion passed over it, but it did not stir. A light convulsion means a shiver. A shiver passed to the fawn's body. We know this because Jody could feel it, because his hands were on the body of the fawn. So he could feel the shiver in the fawn's body. But it did not stir. Did not stir means it did not run away from there. It continued standing there. So I hope this portion is clear. Please underline the new words that you find. Some words may be new for you, some may not be. So whatever is new for you, please underline those words, and some meanings I have given you. Please re-listen to the video, audio, and write the meanings in your copies. Let's continue with the rest. So Jody had his hands around the fawn. He stroked its sides as gently as though the fawn were a china deer and he might break it. So he stroked means he kept touching stroking with his fingers, he kept touching the sides of the fawn, the side body of the fawn, as though it were a china deer. China deer means what? It is like china clay. You know, at home, in many of our homes, we have china cups for tea, which is meant only for guests, and our parents do not allow us to touch those china cups and plates and saucers for tea. Only guests are served, and it's very, very expensive, and we have to treat them very gently, otherwise just a slight hit on the ground and it will break. So in the same way, he was treating this fawn, very gently touching him on his sides. He was afraid that he might break the fawn. Would the fawn break? It wouldn't break. But then he was extraordinarily careful. Its skin was very soft. It was sleek and clean and had a sweet scent of grass. So its skin was very, very soft. It was sleek, very shiny, very smooth, and it was also clean. Maybe because of the rain the previous night, it had got washed, and it was very, very clean, and it was not smelling bad. It was smelling very sweet, smelling as sweet as the grass. He rose slowly and lifted the fawn from the ground. He rose. Rose means he got up. He got up slowly and picked up. Lifted means picked up and lifted the fawn from the ground. Its legs hung limply. Limply means without life, just like that. Like when somebody becomes unconscious, they have no control over their body, and that's how they become so heavy for us to pick them up. They have no control. So in the same way, the fawn's legs were just hanging from Jody's hands because he had picked it up. They were surprisingly long, and he had to hoist the fawn as high as possible under his arm. Surprisingly, Jody found the legs of the fawn very, very long. They did not look long when he was standing on the ground, but the moment Jody picked up the fawn, it seemed that his legs had grown, had become very long. And he had to hoist. Hoist means to pick up. Like we hoist the national flag, in the same way he had to pick up the fawn higher, as high as possible under his arm. Like you can see in the picture, he had the fawn under his arm. And where was he taking it? He was taking it home, and he had to pick it up, otherwise the legs of the fawn would get stuck in the trees, in the branches, in the shrub, like you can see in the picture. It was no doubt heavy. The fawn was heavy. Even though it was still a baby, it was still heavy for Jody. But he tried his best to pick it up as high as possible. He was afraid that it might kick and bleed at sight and smell of its mother. So Jody was afraid that when the fawn would see its dead mother lying there on the ground, being eaten up by the buzzards, he might kick and bleat. Bleat is the sound that goats make. Goats also bleat. So this fawn also might bleat at the sight and smell of its mother. The moment it got the smell of its mother, it might start to kick and bleat and make sound. He skirted the clearing. Skirted means he, with his hand, one hand which was free, he moved the clearing, the bushes from there, and pushed his way into the thicket. Thicket means into the bushes. It was difficult to fight through with his burden. It was very, very difficult because his hands also were occupied carrying the fawn, and he had to walk through the thicket. Thicket means the plants growing there, all the scrubs and the small bushes growing under the tall trees. It was difficult to fight through with his burden. Burden is the fawn, the fawn that he is carrying. Whatever you carry on your body is your burden. You carry your school bag, that is the burden that you carry. In this here it means that, okay. The fawn's legs caught in the bushes, and he could not lift his own with freedom. So the fawn's legs, which I told you before, they were very, very long, and they were getting stuck in the bushes, in the plants, and he could not lift his own with freedom. And Jody also could not pick up his legs freely. He also was finding it difficult. He tried to shield its face from prickling vines. He tried to shield. Shield means to protect. He tried to protect the face of the fawn from prickling vines. Prickling means like pricks, we have like thorns, like in the rose plant we have thorns. It's very difficult to pick rose plants because they poke us. So from it, he was trying his best to protect the face of the fawn from all those vines. Vines means those plants which climb. They are climbers. So he was trying to protect the face of the fawn. Its head bobbed with his stride. Its head bobbed means went up and down, up and down, up and down. As you walk, your head also moves up and down with his stride. Stride means with his kind of walk. Stride is a synonym for walk. W-A-L-K, walk. His heart thumped with the marvel of its acceptance of him. His heart thumped means his heart began to beat. His heart was beating very, very fast because he was happy to see that the fawn had accepted him and the fawn was not trying to run away. He reached the trail and walked as fast as he could until he came to the intersection with the road home. So he reached the trail. Trail means kacha path, kacha road. Like if you have to climb a hill, There will not be any pakka road, there will be a kacha road. So that kacha road is called a trail. And he walked as fast as he could until he came to the intersection. Intersection means the charali. You know, in Hindi we call it charali, and in Assamese we call it sariali. Yes. So he came there, and this sariali or this intersection would go to, one road would go to his house, that is Jody's house. He stopped to rest and set the fawn down. He stopped to rest for some time, and he put the fawn down on its dangling legs. It wavered on them. It looked at him and bleated. It wavered means it began to shake. It could not stand properly. Maybe it was hungry. It had no food throughout the night. Its mother was dead. And as the moment Jody put him down, it began to bleat. He said, enchanted. Enchanted means he felt like a miracle had happened. I'll carry you after I get my breath. And he was talking to the fawn now, telling him, don't worry, I'll carry you after I get my breath. After I begin to breathe again properly, I shall carry you. Don't worry about that, I shall carry you. He remembered his father saying that a fawn would follow if it had first been carried. So he remembered his father's advice. If you carry a fawn for some time, the fawn thinks that you belong to him, and it will follow you wherever you go. So that's why he put the fawn down. He started away slowly. The fawn stared out at him. So Jody began to walk, because his father had told him, the fawn will follow you. So Jody began to walk, expecting the fawn to follow him. And did it follow him? We'll come to know. So his father had told him that if you carry a fawn first and keep it down, and then it will follow you. He started away slowly. So Jody began to walk away from there. The fawn stared after him and stared at him. He saw this boy going away. He came back to it and stroked it and walked away again. Jody again came back to the fawn who was looking at him. He stroked it, touched it, and then he walked away again. It took a few wobbling steps towards him and cried piteously. Then the fawn began to move. It took a few wobbling. Wobbling means not very sure, very unsure steps, very shaky steps towards him, and cried piteously. Cried piteously means it began to bleat like goats, goats do. So in the same way, the fawn began to cry. It seemed like it was crying piteously. Piteously means very, very sadly. It was willing to follow him. It belonged to him. It was his own. He was light-headed with his joy, and Jody was very, very happy, very, very excited to see that this fawn had accepted him and was following him. This made him extremely happy. He wanted to fondle it. He wanted to play with the fawn. He wanted to touch the fawn and play with the fawn. He wanted to fondle it, to run and romp with it. Let's continue in the next page. So he wanted to fondle it, to run and romp with it. Yes, romp also is the kind of play. Romp means play. Romp with it, to call to it, to come to him. So he wanted to do all these things, but he could not do so now. He dared not alarm it. Dared not alarm it means dared not frighten him or make him scared, because he was afraid that if he scared him or if he went to him and played with him now itself, then the fawn may run away. So he dared not do anything. Very, very gently he took him home, towards his home. He picked it up and carried it in front of him over his two arms. It seemed to him that he walked without effort. So now he picked up the fawn. It seemed like the fawn was getting tired, so Jody picked up the fawn. His arms began to ache. Ache means pain. That is, Jody's arms began to ache, and he was forced to stop again. Again he had to make a stop, because he could not continue carrying the fawn, which was quite heavy. When he walked on, the fawn followed him at once. So then now he put the fawn down, and then he continued walking. After some rest, he continued walking, and he saw that the fawn was following him. He allowed it to walk a little distance, then picked it up again. So he allowed the fawn. The fawn also could not walk very well. So after some time, again Jody picked it up. The distance home was nothing. It was not far. Jody's house was not far. He could have walked all day and into the night carrying it and watching it follow. So he could have done this for the whole day, for the whole night. He was just in wonder looking at this fawn following him and not running away. He was wet with sweat, but the light breeze blew through the June morning, cooling him. He was sweating very badly. Jody was sweating very badly. But then there was a light breeze blowing, like a breeze was blowing in the June morning, and this breeze was cooling him. He was sweating, no doubt, but he was also getting cool because of the breeze. The sky was as clear as spring water in a blue china cup. The sky was very clear. There were no signs of rain. It was not hot. He came to the clearing, that area there. He came to the where the area was clean. It was fresh and green after the night's rain. He fumbled with the latch and was finally obliged to set down the fawn to manage it. So he tried to open the latch. Latch is the hook of the door by which we open and close the door. So he fumbled. He was trying to open it. He could not. So he put the fawn down. Then he had an idea. He would walk into the house, into Penny's bedroom, with the fawn walking behind him. But at the steps the fawn balked and refused to climb them. He picked it up and went to his father. Penny lay with closed eyes. So suddenly, after he tried to open the door, the latch of the door, he had an idea. He thought, okay, let me go in without picking him up. So he started walking, and the fawn also followed him. But the fawn had to stop. The fawn, and there was a few steps there. The fawn could not walk up those steps, and the fawn balked. Means he refused to move ahead. He just got stuck there. He could not move ahead. He did not know how to climb steps. But that was Jody's idea for the fawn to follow him into Penny's bedroom and to surprise his father. So he picked it up and went to his father. So that was not possible. So he just picked up the fawn in his arms and he went to his father. Penny was laying in the bed with his eyes closed. He was sleeping, not dead. Okay. So Jody said, Pa, look. Pa, look at what? Look at the fawn. So that's the end of today's topic. So whatever new words you have found, there are many words here, many words. More than 20 words are there, new words. Please make a list of those words and look for the meanings of the words in a dictionary. If by chance you do not find the meanings, then let me know. I shall send you the meanings. Okay. So please let me know, but you must do this task, and if possible, send me a picture of the words that you have found. Make a list of the new words that you have found and then send me a picture of it. Okay, so then I will know how many new words you have found, how many new words are not new for you. That also will be tested. Okay, so send me a list of the new words. I'm giving you some homework also. So please answer those questions and submit to me in Google Classroom. That's all for today. Okay, any doubts, let me know. Bye-bye.